everybody. Welcome to our stream of Marvin's Marvelous Adventure. So this is a late release for the Amiga, and it came out in 1994, I believe. And having trouble getting it to start. Shall we? Let's see. Perhaps that did it. Perhaps that didn't do it.
F12's not even working.
Well, F12 will get me back there. I've already inserted the second disc.
Joystick set up.
Let's make sure the joystick. That seems like it's right. Maybe I should map it to the port 2. There we go.
Hey, it's not an Amigos live stream unless
there.
jack
Yep,
the controls.
that's right. That's right. So this, I found this game to be pretty darn good.
It's right up your alley.
Yeah, you were telling me before the stream started you were playing with the keyboard, which I can only imagine was a horrendous experience.
Well, I had all kinds of trouble running this game, as we talked about. It would not run on the 12, and I could not. I've got a problem with my CD burner right now, so I couldn't actually knock this off of the CD32. And so that meant I had to go down the emulation path, which was no easy task, because this thing didn't just, as you know, you couldn't just fire this thing right up and go.
Right.
I had to do a bunch of crazy stuff. And for whatever reason, this thing would not identify my joysticks. And I mean, I don't know why, because I've used them. But I mean, honestly, I go the emulation route so infrequently that I've forgotten a lot of stuff I was doing. So I had to play the keyboard. That said, I cheated. I ended up seeing the whole game and playing a little bit of each level.
So the very first thing I did was remap all of my remap up to a button, so I don't have to do up to jump.
That would probably help.
Yeah, and this is probably the best feeling platformer that we've done, in my opinion, on the Amiga. As far as the best controlling, it's very easy to get around. There's all kinds of secret rooms and doors and things. This game has 60 levels.
Yeah, it's long.
Yeah, I watched a playthrough of it, and I mean it's like
2.5 hours.
Maybe even a little bit longer. And Marvin really does go on a lot of adventures. We're barely going to scratch the surface. This is another collect fest.
Yeah, this reminds me if like Super Frog and Commander Keen had a kid, basically with a more colorful graphics than Keen had.
This is more of like a Zool as far as like the colorfulness of graphics, but this game controls.
Yeah, Zool. You're right. It does have a Zool quality to it. With, like I said, Zool, Commander Keen, and Super Frog.
Yeah,
a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, some would argue too much stuff.
Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff that you can get.
You just kind of burn through these levels. Now I think I have turned the cheats on, but the early levels are so easy that it really doesn't matter.
Even with the keyboard, I got to just without doing anything wrong, I got to level 5 or 6. It wasn't that tough.
But I like it's got some parallax in here.
It does, yeah.
It's
multiple layers. I mean, we got 3 or 4 layers of parallax going there.
The sort of thing that he fires off there, I mean, that's just about as generic as you can get, your projectile there. But I like his duck animation. I think that's,
He tucks his head in his pants.
Different, yeah. That's what I do when I want to hide from danger. It's got all of these help things that are reminiscent of Super Mario Brothers 3, where there were just so many new things that you could do. Oh, he's got a double jump too.
I'll tell you something.
Or maybe not.
You always said I had forever to get over this ledge. I remember this distinctly.
I'm trying to remember how I did it.
Mapping your stick like you've done is Yeah, I know that. I mean, I had the exact same problem. I got over it, but it took me like 1,000 million tries. But if you consider that that wasn't an option, short of the CD32 version of this.
Yeah, you're having a bad time.
Yeah, because I had all kinds of trouble controlling it. You know, again, now I was using it. I'm not going to try to assess the controls in this because I had to use the keyboard, so I'm going to leave that to you. But I'm going to go just from the little I played with the keyboard. I'm guessing that controlling this and jumping at the same time would be a real toughie.
Yeah.
You know, because this game, I mean, it's cute, but I mean, it's not like it's a simple game. You get going, it gets tough, and there's a lot of stuff going on.
Oh, yeah.
And also, the graphics are tiny for my blindness. And so that, like, the enemies are real squat, you know?
Yeah, everything seems squished down.
And so, normally that's not a huge deal. But, I mean, you have to be sort of precise, which is another reason it reminds me of Commander Keen. Because if you remember playing Commander Keen, it was kind of like this, too.
You know, I haven't played that yet.
You've never played Commander Keen? Well, you're young.
That was sort of wasn't that like a sort of
PC-centric. It's one of the very, very early PC.
Was it a shareware title?
Was.
Yeah, I remember getting a catalog or something.
Yeah, it was. But you know, it was not nearly as attractive as this. But it was a similar type game. But the connection is that things were smaller, and it made it difficult for me even back in those days to see where exactly I was jumping, exactly the point where I was trying to land. You know, and of course you tack on the fact that you're having to hit up for a jump.
Right.
It's a real bear. But it's funny that until this was recommended to us, that I'd not heard of this, because it seems like this would be a game that people would kind of get into. I can see why, having looked at some of the reviews and read them, I can see why people would be turned off by it as well.
We'll talk more about this on the podcast, but I was surprised at how low this game reviewed. I mean,
I thought it was definitely under-reviewed.
Yeah.
But again, I think the control situation was part of it. But I think by the time this came out, people
were getting tired of the mascot. Because
this came out, was it 94, 96, something like that?
People were getting tired of the mascot platform.
Well, it's not just that. It's like, think of what was roaming the world at that time. We'd seen Mario's up to 3 or 4. We'd seen your Sonics, and we'd seen that sort of thing. And so you're right. These things were becoming dime a dozen sort of things. And plus, as nice as this is, it's no Mario.
Right.
It's not even a Sonic, really. It's a different game.
It's an Amiga platformer.
It is. I mean, in every sense of the word.
Yeah.
I mean,
now, all of the elements are present, and I think that these developers did learn the lesson of Super Frog and Zool, and not make it crazy, crazy hard. But in a way, they almost went too far the other direction and made it a little bit too easy, at least in the early stages. Now, of course, it does, I'm sure, get crazy, crazy hard towards the end.
Yes, it does. Just from, I only had a cup of coffee. I was like, holy smokes, are you kidding me?
But the version that I have is an ADF. This didn't.
That's the same one I had to use too.
Yeah, this didn't work on WHD, or actually, it wasn't even available on our library, and it came with a crack, and so
there is a WHD version, but I couldn't get it. It was in Super Duper PAL, so I couldn't get it. Some of the things that run like a higher resolution PAL, they won't even show up on my TV at all.
And this is running. I'm sure this is running at the highest resolution the Amiga can. I mean, there's a lot of pixels and a lot of colors on the screen.
You know, that screen, the loading screen, is another thing that's bewildering to me, because that is your hero. He looks almost like a villain.
Yeah. I think that this is the era of Tude, apostrophe Tude.
I hate that. Was a stupid era.
And it was ushered in by Sonic. Sonic wasn't smiling; he had Tude.
Yeah, but to be fair, Sonic he didn't say anything.
Yeah,
he just sort of looked like a tough guy and ran around.
Marvin does not look like a tough guy in the game. He looks kind of like the guy in Lionheart.
He's sort of like a more diabolical Dennis the Menace.
Yeah,
that's what he reminds me of. Yeah. If you remember Dennis the Menace.
Oh yeah. And this is your invincibility, or not really invincibility, but you're sort of, these guys kind of help you out.
They just basically follow behind you and smack stuff.
Yeah. But this has got, I appreciate the hidden areas. It's kind of got some James Bond in there too. especially Pawn 2, RoboCod.
Now that much said, where do you put this in the
pantheon?
In the Addams Family.
This
where does it rank? How far? I know it's not above it, but how far below it?
The graphics. I mean, these are 8-bit graphics. Compared to if you look at the sprites, everything is hyper pixelated.
Well, it's 16-bit graphics. It's just it looks good.
It doesn't compare this to Addams Family.
It's got cool backgrounds. I mean, I'll give it that.
But do you see? Look at our hero. I mean, he is pixelated. I mean, there's no way around.
Well, it looks better on the TV.
And but the graphics on Addams Family are top notch for the Amiga.
They're one thing the Addams Family had nice, large sprites that they could work with. They really tried. They packed a lot of detail in this little guy, but they when you do that, it's just basically he's awful small too. Yeah. There's always what you can do.
And this is this almost is a more like I could see this being released on Steam or something like that as like a retro, because it's that pixel art sort of aesthetic.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you could I could see, and the thing is, this is plenty playable.
Oh yeah,
now put a little joystick alteration action in there, and you're in business.
Playability wise, I mean, Addams Family we're gonna be hard pressed to find a platformer that I like more than Addams Family. This is definitely. There's this, and there's a new game, Mr. Beanbag. Mr. Beanbag is...
Oh, yes, you played that. Yeah. That was a Amiga's play you did early on.
Right. That's a heck of a platform. Of course,
I've not played that.
We might want to consider doing a full episode on that.
I
like it so much.
Did that come out originally, or was that a fan thing?
It's a new game. It just came out a couple years ago.
Maybe we should cover that. That's a good idea.
And I know
Put it on the list,
I know Beanbag and Mrs. Beanbag. I conversate with them on Twitter sometimes.
Oh yeah, there's a Mrs. Beanbag.
Yeah, there's a Mrs. Beanbag too. And this is definitely in the top 5 for sure, and I would definitely rank it above any of the sort of heavy hitters of the Amiga like Pond and Super Frog.
I think Pond 2 is awful good. I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, I thought
that was an awesome. The gimmick in it was neat.
Yeah, it is a neat gimmick. I just find this one more fun to play.
What about now if we're talking cutesy platforms, I'll grant you, but I mean. There's, you've got your more strategic platforms like Gods.
Gods is horrible. It doesn't control well.
I love Gods.
I
don't agree
but
with you on that.
It doesn't control well. It controls like a sack of potatoes.
I hesitate to say it, but Prince of Persia is technically a platformer.
It is. It's more of a puzzle platformer.
And then you've got the king of platformers, Lionheart.
Yes.
Which is a darn good game with beautiful graphics.
And it's the combat in Lionheart is so much more of a part of it. The sword play.
That's the worst part of it.
Yeah, but it's a big part of the game, which is why it's a terrible
game. I would love to see that game remade. That's one that should be. They could go in there and say, okay, we're going to fix this goofy looking character and stupid sword play.
I think that if it had a bigger fan base, that would have been done already. Super Frog got remade. I'm trying to think.
Much like Lionheart, this only appeared on what the Amiga and the ST, I think.
Maybe not even.
I'd have to look. It's in my
Look,
research. Yeah. But when you've got those system-specific games that are of quality, those really needed to be nurtured and possibly updated to a certain.
Yeah. But yeah, this is. I mean, I like
the way you can get in your boat. Which
I didn't. But you can I can't do it there. But there's a lot of different things. As I was watching the playthrough, you have lots of different sort of vehicles you can get into. Kind of reminds me of the original Mario game for the Game Boy, where you had your plane, your submarine, and stuff like that. Did you ever play that one?
I didn't. I'm not far enough to get into that stuff. I mean, I've had a cup of coffee with it.
But there's a big variety of enemies. Even though the sprites are small, I kind of like it when sprites are small sometimes, because that means they're usually kind of quick moving. It's the opposite of Gods or Sodan or those games where the sprites are big but everything is just glacial.
I don't want to ruin this for anybody that's going to play this game. So just a few seconds of spoiler time. Did you watch that playthrough to the end of this? I
didn't watch all the way to the end.
Do you want to know the ending?
Well, we can watch the ending right now. I can just reset it and hit the trainer. You want to watch? Is it worth watching for the fans?
Man, it's no.
Okay, then just tell me about it.
The ending stink. Did you watch the opening dialogue with all the stuff, the pizza delivery?
Yeah, kinda.
You didn't. You did. I know you. You skipped right past it. So basically, the premise of this show is the premise of this game is that this professor invented this thing that controls human brain waves.
Mm-hmm.
So he rewards himself for his good deed by ordering a pizza.
Okay.
Well, unbeknownst to him, the evil bad guy has been spying on him, and he comes in and he tinkers with the brainwave machine. Anyway, here comes the pizza boy, and right when the pizza boy gets there, the bad guy is mentally wailing on the professor.
Mm.
And then when he forgets that he took out these chips, or puts them in, he does something to the effect where it screws up and it sends all three of them here to this land.
Mm.
Okay, and so what you're trying to do in this is go get the professor and get back to your home.
So it's kind of like Rocket Ranger.
No, because Rocket Ranger's already in his home.
He's in a different country, you know.
Right, I mean, they're in a whole different universe here, is my point.
Okay.
So, at the end, you go through all this rigmarole. You fight all these bad guys, all these bosses. And you find the professor, and he's like, well, we can't get back home. I guess we just wander around and have adventures. And that's it.
Wow.
I was like, are you I was not happy. I was like, if I'd played this for 3 hours and I got that ending, I would be appalled.
Yeah, it's not good.
I will say something else along those lines. The opening cinematic of this is garbage. It is slow and boring.
Yeah,
I mean, it's so
completely
so
the opposite of Super Frog, which was the
oh
opening
gosh,
is great
yeah.
for that.
I mean,
so.
it is. I couldn't believe how poor it was, and I'm sure that didn't help it either.
Right.
I was like, man, this is the best story you could come up with for this game. The game deserves better, a lot better.
Yeah. Well, I think that this is a pretty good taste of Marvin. We will talk about it more on the show. What do you say?
I think it's a nice game, though.
Yeah. All right, guys. Until then, adios.